Hi, I'm Sarah Deering and welcome to Ac3TV. Today we're joined again by David Jaffe, Consulting Director of Limebridge Australia. David, welcome back to the show.
It's great to be here, Sarah.
Excellent. Now last episode we tackled the concept of why contact centres are so stuck on GOS, and you certainly forced a rethink for some pretty conventional thinking.
Thank you. It was enjoyable to talk about it.
And so what have you got in store for us this episode?
Well, today we thought we'd look at are we stuck on some customer service models that aren't delivering what we hope they would? And in particular, I'd like to look at two different models that we think are fairly dominant in the industry. On one extreme, we have what we'd call the generalist model, where we try and teach people pretty much to do everything for the customer, often supported by things like knowledge tools that help them answer all questions for the customer. On the other extreme, we have the specialised or skill-based model, where we narrow the problem down to particular functions like billing or particular products like credit cards, and teach people only to do those things, again with the goal of creating an easier way to sort of join the company. Both of them have the objective of resolving the customer's inquiries. With the super generalist model or the generalist model, the idea is that I can solve all problems and therefore I should get a high level of resolution. And with the skill-based model, the idea is that I'm very specialised, and therefore if I get the right inquiries, I should be able to solve those and absolutely make sure I resolve them.
Okay, so talk me through the generalist model first. What are the issues?
Well, the first problem we find with the generalist model is it takes a long time to get people competent. They've got a lot to learn. And that therefore means they actually need a lot of help and support, and often have to escalate a large number of the queries that they get, because they're not familiar with all the nuances and all the variations that occur. That means that they don't actually get the resolution that some of the people were aiming for with those models, because they're needing to get help and support, or even failing to solve the customer's problem because they don't understand all the complexity. So often it doesn't deliver what the business was hoping for.
And now the specialist model. What are some of the drawbacks in engaging the specialist model?
The first problem it creates is the customer has to navigate the organisation. They have to be able to tell the organisation which type of skill or specialist they need. And that often causes lots of transfers and lots of movement of the customer across the business, which they don't like. The second problem is that it doesn't actually split out complexity the way organisations are hoping that it would. So their idea is, I simplify the job so that I don't have as long to train people, and therefore they should become more expert in those problems and be able to solve them. But the trouble is that regardless of whatever the skill or specialisation is, there's always going to be a mixture of the simple and the very complex. So a person who's just joined the organisation and spent 2 weeks in training and then hits the call centre floor might get hit on the first call with the ugliest variation of that call type you've ever seen, and fumble all the way through it and need to get help and support and not get the resolution and the answer that the customer wanted. So we find
that really does happen.
That really does happen. We saw an instance only the other week, for example, of a new starter on their second day having a 66-minute call.
Wow.
And not being able to get the resolution that the customer was looking for.
Okay, so if both the generalist and the specialist models have their flaws, what do you recommend?
Well, we say that organisations are right with their intent of trying to separate complexity, but unfortunately neither the customer nor the technology know, is this going to be simple or is this going to be hard? So we find the answer is to potentially look at having a group of people who take all the calls, a bit like the generalist model, but their goal is not to try and solve all of them. Part of their goal is to try and work out which things they can't do and which things need help from more experienced staff. But they can solve potentially 70 to 80% of all the simple things, regardless of what products or what services the customer's asking for. But they then, if you like, triage the call and transfer the complex ones to people who can solve them. And customers don't mind that kind of transfer because they feel like they're progressing in the organisation and getting the help and support that they need.
Okay, and you're calling that the complexity split model?
Correct. So we call that a complexity split model.
Okay, so then what further benefits can organisations expect if they engage with a complexity split model?
Well, a couple of things. Firstly, they get the level of resolution they were looking for and which the customer wanted. So if the first tier can't solve it, the second tier can, because they have the experience and understanding of all those nuances that I referred to earlier. The second thing that we get for the organisation is a more efficient model because it better matches the complexity of the problem to the skill of the person who can solve it. So there's a lot of efficiency gains to be had in the model. Staff also get a benefit from being able to start with a simple set of inquiries that they can handle and then move on to, as they get more experience, being able to solve the more complex things. So there's a natural skill progression for them, and they also don't have that kind of post-induction stress of, I don't think I can handle this work, because they always have that second tier of complex handlers to help them.
Sure. Now, I'm sure there'll be contact centres out there who would want to know more. So where can we go for more information?
Well, on our website, www.limebridge.com.au, we've got a white paper called The 5 Myths of Effective Customer Service Models that explores the sort of things I've been talking about in a lot more detail. So I think people would find that useful.
Great. Now, David, we are out of time. I want to thank you again for coming onto the show and giving our viewers plenty to think about again.
Oh, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Excellent. Now, I'm Sarah Deering. Thank you again for watching AC3TV.